Hello everybody, welcome back to Victoria 3. In this video, I will be showing you how to form Canada. So, the 1.2 update just released, which means that they finally fixed the issue of the 39th parallel. If you didn't know before this, the US would colonize all of these territories and would ruin your borders, but now that is fixed, so now I feel that I am entitled to do a Canada forming video. Canada can be formed by exactly 6 countries, I believe: the Columbia District, the Hudson Bay Company, Upper Canada, Lower Canada, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. The one I'm going to be forming Canada with is the Hudson Bay Company. You can do it with Upper Canada and Lower Canada too, but any 3 of those works best. I like to do Hudson Bay Company because they have a border with the Columbia District. I will get into why that is relevant here in a second. But really quick, before we get into that list, I wanted to inform you that 92% of my viewers are currently not subscribed, so if you wanted to hit the subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. The nation formation system in Victoria 3 is a little bit weird when it comes to Canada because, just like Australia, you need to go through your Decisions tab to do the Confederate Canada ideals. So, what do we need? Hudson Bay Company is at peace. Check. Hudson Bay Company has researched nationalism. We'll need to do that. Relations between Great Britain and the Hudson Bay Company is greater than or equal to 50. We'll need to do that. Hudson Bay Company does not have the Canadian unifier, I'll get into that in a second, and have at least amicable relations and a greater GDP than a neighboring Anglo-Canadian or Franco-Canadian country with the same overlord. So, in simple terms, we need to have nationalism researched, so we'll go ahead and queue that one up. We can go ahead and do this immediately right off the bat. We need to have 50% relations with Great Britain, so we're going to come over to the Interactions tab and improve relations with them. And then I'm going to improve relations with District of Columbia. Because we need to have a higher GDP than our neighbors in order to do this, the easiest one to do that over is the District of Columbia. Their GDP is way worse than ours. Only 164,000 versus our 375,000. These other 2 over here, they have similar GDPs to ours, so they're a little bit harder to guarantee that you will be over. We're going to target Columbia District first, then we're going to go with Lower Canada and Upper Canada, and then hit New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. So all that's really left for us to do is just build up our economy so we can make sure we keep above our neighbors. So taxation levels up to 5. I'm also going to add a consumption tax to services, and I'm probably going to get rid of grain just because it's a little too expensive, because there's better ways to use it. Luxury clothes would be better. Liquor would be better. We'll hit luxury furniture as well, and opium, I believe. Then I'm going to add a decree of greener grass campaign in Hudson Bay, Quebec. That's going to give us a much better population growth, and then we're going to start building buildings here. So, wheat farm first, and then a livestock ranch, and I will actually build a construction sector very first. And then on pause, and we're simply going to wait for these numbers to get to 50. If you would like to, you may also change over to laissez-faire. That's probably going to help you build up your economy just a little bit faster, but not everybody likes to do that, so I'm not going to do it this time, but you can do it if you would like. Also, make sure you are changing over all of your production methods. Since you are in the British economy, it's not going to actually matter that much. You don't really have to worry about, missing things that you need in order to build. So just go ahead, build pretty much whatever you want, and change all of the production methods up to whatever's newest. So all we need to do now is just wait for our relations with both of these countries to reach 50 and for our research to finish. Then we'll move on to what you do after that. Alright, my relations with Columbia District have just hit 50, my relations with Great Britain are above 50, and I have nationalism, which means I can come over to the Journal tab, and this decision will now be green. I can click this, and I will annex the Columbia District because they are the one that I have 50% relations with. God Save the Queen event happens, and now Hudson Bay Company is much bigger. As soon as I click this, I will need to wait for the modifier Canadian unifier to disappear. So 31 months later, that's going to disappear, and I'm going to be able to do this again. In the meantime, I get plus 50 prestige, so this is going to be way higher than it would normally. And while I wait on that, I can continue to improve my relations with the rest of these guys. So Upper Canada, Lower Canada, and looks like New Brunswick is actually already amicable towards me, so I'll move on to Nova Scotia, do that, and then I will simply wait for it to be done, and I will click that button again once that's ready. Alright, we got about 8 weeks before the Canadian unifier disappears from our country. And as soon as that runs out, we can Confederate Canada again because my relations with Lower Canada are now amicable. Boom, and they're gone. Now they belong to me. 2.8 million GDP skyrocketing up. Population skyrocketing up. Alright, looks like the Iron Confederacy has actually launched a revolt against me. These now work a little bit differently than they used to pre-patch. The warfare will do the exact same thing as it did before, but instead of annexing them as soon as you win the war, you will instead get a buff to how fast you can colonize them. It's a little bit of a weird system, but I think it works a little bit better than what it used to. It's a little more inconvenient, but it does make the game more balanced, especially when you're, down in Africa colonizing everything. Down here, you don't want people to just, get one guy done or whatever and then colonize everything, because that's a little bit lame. But you'll see what I mean in a second. So, pretty much taken over all of the territory by now. Looks like they've got a little bit of a sliver left. 7. Alright, they're gone. So now if I come over to make peace, you can see Hudson Bay colonization rights and not annex. So, Diplomatic Pact is created with a decentralized nation when it's defeated, and it gives you an increased speed at which you can colonize their land and last for the duration of the truce. So, once we're done with that, you will see how much faster I can colonize versus how quickly I used to be able to. So this was about 90 days, and once this one's done, I guess we'll find out how much faster it actually is. 200. So yeah, that's pretty significant jump in speed, I would say. Yeah. So it literally cut the speed in half. That's astronomically effective. All right. Let's see. Is my modifier done yet? Okay, my modifier is done. We were at war, so we couldn't confederate Canada while we're at war, obviously, because that's one of the stipulations. But now that that's done, we can hit the button again, and this time we get New Brunswick. So, New Brunswick now belongs to us. GDP shoots up again big time. Population shoots up, and now we're good on that. Now we just gotta do it 2 more times. Alright, we are once again at a point where we can confederate Canada. I'm going to hit this button again. God save the Queen, as always. And you're going to notice now that in the Cultures tab, there is actually a nation formation button for Canada. Once you get enough of these states all together, you will actually be able to click this button and no longer be the Hudson Bay Company, but become Canada. There is an event here. I know this buffs your prestige by like 20% or something like that for a short time. I do not know if this will actually turn you into Canada, because I've never done it that way and it's not practical to do so, but you will be able to hit that once you do all your colonizing through here in the Iron Confederacy and Neat Sit Uppy. I will assume that's how you say that, but I'm pretty damn sure it's not. So I guess we just wait one more time for the Confederate Canada event to be able to occur, and then we will get into the fun stuff. One more week and we can finish with the Canadian Unifier events. All right, journal. Decisions, Confederate Canada. We now have Upper Canada. That is the last of all of the Canadian states. So what do we do now? We can now come over to the Cultures tab, Canada, and we can form Canada. Now we don't have Alberta all the way, and we don't have, however the hell you say that, and we don't have Newfoundland. This is fine. You're probably not going to get Newfoundland unless you actually go and, take it from the Brits, which is going to require a lot of other things like gaining independence from the Brits. This stuff, you're just going to have to wait until you get that colonized, but it's not going to be taken from us, so let's go ahead and form Canada. Hit the button, you're now Canada, and you've got this kind of interesting flag that I actually really like. You can get a different flag for Canada if you go and change your voting laws, so instead of autocracy, go to like land voting, census suffrage, blah blah blah. So, I'm going to unpause the game. I will come back as soon as this is done colonizing. And keep in mind that once America does all its stuff, it's going to take Washington, Oregon, and Idaho from you, because that's the agreement of the 39th parallel, or whatever it's called. I think it's 39th. It might be 49th. I don't remember. Whatever this line through here is, that's the agreement. So we get all this stuff, they get all that stuff, and everybody's chill. So I'll come right back as soon as that's done. All right, well, that took just a little bit to do. I did actually go through and do some stuff with my laws and whatever. But yeah, we now have Canada in all of its glory, the way it should be. There's a few things you can go on and do from this point on. If you'd like to, you can become buddy-buddy with the USA and then kick out Great Britain, take Newfoundland from them, and probably take Alaska from Russia. That's some stuff you can do. That would be kind of fun. But yeah, that's the gist of it. That's basically how you form Canada. So I hope you all liked that, found that tutorial very informative. If you did, leave a like on it, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button, because I will be continuing to make more Victoria 3 videos, especially now that 1.2 is out, and I will catch you all in the next one. Goodbye.